The other witnesses, Khadijih Bagum and Haji Mubarak at the declaration of the Bab. When picturing the scene of the Bab's declaration, I think of his house in Shiraz, quiet and dark, during a spring night in 1844. I think of an upper room where he converses with Mullah Hussein, revealing his spiritual mission as the promised one, and the prophet herald of a new manifestation of God, Baha'u'llah. My mind does not travel beyond that upper chamber to explore the house's other rooms. But let us wander. We will discover that two other inhabitants are awake physically and spiritually that fateful night: the Bab's wife, Khadijih Bagum, and servant, Haji Mubarak. Let us meet these two. At 22, Khadijih Bagum has been married to the Bab for 2 years, but she has known him all her life. They grew up as childhood playmates, enjoying camaraderie as neighbors and kin. Like the Bab, Khadijih Bagum traced her ancestry to the Prophet Muhammad. Early on, she sensed the Bab's spiritual endowments. In a dream she had as an adolescent, she saw him in a verdant plain with flowers in profusion, praying towards Mecca, wearing an outer coat on which Quranic verses were embroidered with threads of gold. His face was radiant. She later recounted, "I could see by his behavior, his words, his tranquility and dignity that he was a great person, but I never imagined that he was the promised Qaim." Like Khadijih Bagum, Haji Mubarak has been a close associate of the Bab since his childhood. Haji Mubarak was purchased by the Bab's relatives as a child. Domestic slaveholding was common in Persia at the time, and he became a servant in the Bab's household. He played a special role in the Bab's upbringing. In a prayer, the Bab refers to Haji Mubarak as "Him who raised me on thy behalf, whose name is Mubarak." The Bab praises Haji Mubarak for making him a precious toy, a bow and arrow, during his childhood. When the Bab was older, Haji Mubarak helped him with business affairs. Now it is an evening in late May, 1844. Khadijih Bagum sees that the Bab's whole being is ablaze. He tells her, "Tonight we will entertain a dear guest." The night that followed must have reminded her of an earlier one. That earlier night, upon noticing the Bab's absence, Khadijih Bagum climbed the stairs and saw the upper chambers of the house immersed in light. She realized that this light was not physical but spiritual. Looking into the room, she saw the Bab standing in the middle of the room with his hands raised heavenward. Staring at the dazzling light emanating from his being, she became frightened. She wanted to leave but could not move. Perceiving her state, the Bab told her, "Go back." Hearing these words, she could depart. After returning to her room, she supplicated God, asking, "What is the wisdom in your revealing to me that effulgent sun? Is he my Sayyid Ali Muhammad? Will I henceforth be able to live with that luminous sun? Nay, the rays of this resplendent sun will consume me and will reduce me to ashes. I possess not the power to withstand it." By morning, she still felt awed by her husband. As she struggled to have breakfast with him, she asked, "What was the condition I saw you in?" He responded, "Know thou that the Almighty God is manifested in me. I am the one whose advent the people of Islam have expected for over 1,000 years. God has created me for a great cause, and you witnessed the divine revelation. Although I had not wished that you see me in that state, yet God had so willed that there may not be any place in your heart for doubt and hesitation." Now, in May 1844, Khadijih Bagum is again poised to witness divine revelation, as is Haji Mubarak. When the Bab brings Mullah Hussein to his house, Haji Mubarak answers the door. Later he serves dinner. As Mullah Hussein later recounts, "I could not but marvel at the manners and the devoted attentions of that Ethiopian servant whose very life seemed to have been transformed by the regenerating influence of his master. As the conference between the Bab and Mullah Hussein continues, Haji Mubarak stays nearby. According to Abul Qasim Afnan, it was none other than Mubarak who, throughout that night, the night of the revelation of the Bab station, waited, sleepless and vigilant, outside the chamber ready to serve when called upon. Khadijih Bagum is likewise sleepless and vigilant, as from another room she listens to the Bab speaking to Mullah Hussein. I remained awake all night and could hear his blessed voice until the morning, conversing with the Bab, chanting verses and presenting proofs and arguments, she later recounted. What an extraordinary night that was. Both Khadijih Bagum and Haji Mubarak accept the revelation of the Bab wholeheartedly, which transforms their lives. Several months later, Haji Mubarak accompanies the Bab and Qudus on the Hajj. In later decades, after suffering the loss of her spouse, Khadijih Bagum becomes a Baha'i and yearns to meet Baha'u'llah.